All right, Coach, your thoughts on tonight's game?
Well, initially, of course, bitterly disappointed to concede so late and leave ourselves in a position with just a point and not all three. However, I think at the end of a very long week, with a lot of things that went on, even in this game, let alone throughout the last two games, I think maybe a draw was a reasonably fair result. And, I'm delighted with the efforts that the guys have given again. But, sometimes these afternoon games create a different dynamic, and there were a number of mistakes. We weren't quite as clean and as crisp as I've seen us in the last couple of games. No doubt the loss of our only fit forward affected the dynamic of the group. And of course, on another day, we're talking about very fine lines for the penalty that obviously didn't stand in the end, and then the goal that didn't stand. So, look, we know that, or hope that these situations come back to give us a fair share of good luck, and today we've fallen the wrong side of it. So I'm pleased we've added a point, disappointed we conceded so late.
We'll now open the floor for questions, and we'll begin with a question from Dre Hills with the Tennessean.
Gary, where is your official stance with taking a look at the Rios situation? Obviously, in the 33rd, you talked about the penalty that Randall had won, but did you think that was offsides, the one on which in 33rd minute when Rios was able to score? Obviously, that would have not only been good for Daniel, but obviously would have secured the 3 points as well.
It's a really difficult one. I've only seen the camera angle on the jumbo screen out on the field, and I've got to say, when the ball's played, we're talking about extremely fine lines. I can only assume that whoever's in the VAR position has got a better angle and has made the right choice. I mean, I'm bitterly disappointed having seen it on the jumbo screen. We are talking about such a fine line. And it's strange. I was only talking about this the other day to a friend. And, the reality for a lot of fans is they want to see goals. And I was always under the impression that, some daylight between defender and attacker, was really what people were looking for. And I know I've seen plenty of decisions all around Europe and the globe that, leave us shaking our head. But I find it disappointing that somebody can score a goal and have their big toenail just offside, and we cancel it out. And I'm not sure that that's the way we want the game to go either. Now, we've fallen foul of that today. My only hope is that at some point, either VAR or whoever else is making those choices repay us. But you're absolutely right, Jake. It left everyone shaking their head.
We will go on with a question from Tim Sullivan with For Club and Country.
Gary, talk me through the goal that Derek essentially created, but that Daniel finished. What did you see on that play?
Well, there was a bit of a discussion at half-time, just more so around how we were going to be more effective. There were some decent passages of play. There were one or two moments that we've just spoken about, and we were pulled back. But how are we going to make that breakthrough? And I honestly felt, given Derek's performance in the week, that somebody in the middle there who was capable of physically asking more questions, may well give us a bit of a boost. And Derek's immediate impact was to roll the centre-back or draw him into a challenge, be strong enough to ride it, and, of course, make the perfect decision to slide Daniel in. And I'm extremely pleased, obviously, for Daniel again, other than the injury. He's 2-in-2 now. The whole process was something that we were lacking in the first period of the game. So really, really pleased with that. For a large portion of the game, I felt we kept, an incredibly bright front line very quiet. But I'm sure somebody's going to ask me how the game ended and the final goal. But there's no doubt we finished looking tired, leggy, and lacking any real punch up front, which is understandable with all of our forwards injured at the moment.
Steve Cavendish with Nashville SC.
Thanks. Couple of questions about the attack. Without any healthy center forwards, do you have to change what you're going to do structurally in the coming weeks? And along those lines, can you give us an update on where Cadiz might be in terms of being able to contribute at all this season?
Yeah. First and foremost, where we're at with our bodies. Extremely disappointed to see Daniel limp off. I don't know the full extent of it at the minute, so we'll have to assess that. Dominic, obviously, injury in the week. His injury is being fully assessed to maybe give us a bit more of a time frame. Abu is probably the closest to any competitive work, and I'm hoping that he may join the group next week and give everyone a bit of a boost. Aside that, Cadiz, I believe, has gone through all of the paperwork process, and I would be encouraged to see him here next week. What day, I don't know yet, but I think we're close to that, and we may well see him on the ground, at some point in the week. Given the current climate and circumstances, he has to serve a quarantine period, as of a lot of guys that have obviously joined the league. And, we hope that once that quarantine period is done, we can have him as part of the group. And it'll be a much needed shot in the arm, I believe, for everyone.
We have time for one more question, and it will come from Ben Wright with Broadway Sports.
Yeah, Gary, we saw Brian Anunga make just a second start. What did you make of his performance, giving Godoy some relief?
He was absolutely terrific. And, the difficulty is Brian, comes out of the game after an hour, and I think most people will look at it and feel, well, did he do anything wrong? And the boy might question, what his impact on the game was. I thought he was absolutely terrific. You've got two guys in Dax and Annabelle who are arguably the best pairing in the league. I know others will maybe question that. But for me, they've been absolutely outstanding for this group. And the initial plan was maybe to swap the two senior guys out. Given the injury to Daniel and the position we were in, I just felt a little bit more experience might be needed as we drew towards the latter stages of the game. And in many ways it was. Sadly, we couldn't repel, the pressure that we were under. But Brian was spot on. I'm so pleased with how he's developing, how he goes about his work and his attitude. He's a top individual, great character, and I'm extremely pleased with where we're going with Brian.
Look, I think we're all really disappointed with the end result, but also when it's third game in the week and you can't quite get your legs going and the quality can't quite get to where you want it to, I think we all got pretty frustrated with our lack of sharpness and quality. That being said, we put ourselves in position 1-0 where we've had our chances to close out the games before earlier in the year. We've done a great job with that, and today was the first time it kind of cut up to us, especially on a set piece.
We will now open the floor for questions, and we will begin with a question from Tim Sullivan from For Club and Country.
Walker, how disappointed are you, especially after how solid your defense had been all game, to give up the clean sheet right at the death there?
Extremely disappointed. I mean, these are 2 points lost in our minds. Anytime you're at home, you're going for 3 points, especially when you get the first goal in the game. We take a lot of pride in our defense and our shape and our ability to get shutouts and limit opponents' chances. And especially on set pieces. It's where everyone's got to be locked in, tuned in, and somehow put your body on the line to try and make a play. And, you know, we'll have to go back and look at it and see what we could have done better. But, you know, I know we gave up a lot of corners at the end, and can we maybe limit them from getting so far into our end to where, you know, those become throw-ins out wide rather than corners.
Dre Hills with the Tennessee.
Walker, when you take a look at the lead up to that goal, was there any signal in your eyes, just based off how you guys were playing, how you guys were feeling, going up again to the final minutes of the game, to where it was a sign of Houston finally pulling through? Or was that set piece just a couple of seconds of lackadaisical, mental or physical, as you talked about? Was it instant, or was it something that kind of built up from Houston?
You know, I think we found ourselves in a few games now where we're dropping a little deep, and we're absorbing a lot of opportunities, and that is going to be natural sometimes late in the game when you are protecting a lead. So we knew that we were defending a little deeper. They were taking more ground, but at no point do I think anyone thought that we were going to let up a goal. You know, we were trying to communicate, stay sharp mentally, and those are moments where you're trying to just, you know, chat to everyone, make sure everyone's engaged and know their jobs. Again, I'll have to look at the goal and see what could happen and if we can do things differently, and then move on from there and correct it and make sure it doesn't happen again.
Thank you, Walker. We will finish today's availability with a question from Steve Cavendish with Nashville SC.
Thanks. Walker, you and Dave Romney have played every minute of every game, and, you know, it's like you said, your legs were a little tired at the end of this game. Is there any plan to get you guys some rest, particularly with that stretch of games in October where you're essentially playing 2 a week?
I mean, we'll see. We'll see. Kind of. I think it's one of those things where you got to take it day by day, game by game. At some point, would the coaching staff like to get rotations in? I don't know. That's going to be a question for them. As far as me, I'm, you know, and Dave especially, we're just trying to do our best, take care of our bodies, and make sure we're doing all the right things off the field to make sure we put ourselves in a position to do that. And if there comes a week where we pick up a knock or two and we have to go to the staff and say, hey, like I'm feeling this a little bit, maybe that becomes a time to rotate. But in my mind, I mean, I'm competitive. I want to be out there every minute. I want to play every minute. I want to play every game and try and help this team win and find ourselves in the playoffs and making a run for an MLS Cup, because that's what it's all about. So if there's a time later on, yeah, sure. I'm sure they'll think about it. But again, that's a day-by-day thing, and hopefully the body keeps feeling good and we keep moving forward. And that's a testament to all the work that everyone's put in during quarantine, is to stay fit and stay sharp. And I'm proud of all that work that I've done, that the team's done. And so, yeah, I'm going to keep pushing forward and keep staying mentally and physically as sharp as I can.